Hey, good morning. Bassman here, one of Auntie Bev's nephews, and I've got the word of the day. And today's word is cockastocracy. Repeat after me. Cockastocracy. Say it again. Cockastocracy. Cockastocracy refers to a system of government run by the worst, least competent, least qualified, and most unscrupulous citizens. So, here's looking at you, Republicans. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Jim Jones, Greg Abbott, Ted Cruz. You guys are great. One last time. Cockastocracy.
Excuse me. Good evening, and thank you for joining me here with Think About It Thursdays on Conversations with Taz. I told y'all, learning can be fun. History is great. Cockastocracy. I love Bassman. If you do not follow Bassman on TikTok, make sure you get over there and you follow him. You're going to learn something wonderful and unexpected every day. And if you like food, you're going to love his Fat Kid Roundup. Now, sometimes he's thrown me off on the things he's decided to share with us, but I love it. Oops. This week the bingo cards. I didn't have none of this stuff on my bingo card, but coming from AOL.com, one of the stories that I've been following very, very, very closely. Deshaun Watson's suspension increased to 11 games, receives largest player fine in NFL history in settlement. Deshaun Watson will serve an 11-game suspension and pay a $5 million fine for multiple violations of the league's professional conduct policy in what amounts to one of the most significant penalties in NFL history, sources have confirmed to Yahoo Sports. If you were with me last night with Chris, we both agreed, and I said they need to make an example out of him in a way that they did not do Big Ben Roethlisberger or the many others. But I guess better late than never. Wish it would have been a year-long suspension, as Commissioner Roger Goodall wanted, but it is what it is. The Cleveland Browns quarterback and the NFL have settled his disciplinary case prior to a final ruling by arbitrator Peter C. Harvey following an agreement between the two sides on Thursday. The fine is the steepest ever levied against an NFL player. My thing is, I wish they would have let the Honorable Judge Harvey make his decision, because I think it would have been far more harsh than this, but hey, they agreed to it. In a statement through the Browns, Watson said, "I apologize once again for any pain this situation has caused." Team owners Jimmy and Dee Haslam also issued a statement. Let me explain something to you. It is not an apology. It is not genuine. It is not real. It is what I call a faux apology. When you state, "I'm sorry for the pain this has caused." No. Take accountability for your actions, own your actions, reveal your actions, and apologize for your actions and or words. I am tired of people taking the onus off of themselves and making it seem as if, oh, you're just hurt because you took this the wrong way, or you're just hurt as the end result of what you did. Uh, yeah, we have to find some new bingo cards. As a matter of fact, Brittany, remind me tomorrow. I'll scour the internet and find. We'll I'll find some bingo cards and take the best of the best out of them, and we'll make some conversations with Taz bingo cards. And hopefully September will be better for us in these bingo cards. Let's see. Got another pressing update. Okay, here we go. I know usually on Wednesday I update you all on Brittany Griner and her situation, but I did need to confirm some things that came through last minute and I just didn't have the time. But coming from Reuters, Russia engaging in quiet diplomacy with US on Griner prisoner swap, officials said. Russia's foreign minister said on Thursday it was engaged in quiet diplomacy with the United States regarding a potential prisoner swap that would include basketball star Brittany Griner. Griner, a two-time Olympic gold medalist and Women's National Basketball Association (WNBA) star, was sentenced to 9 years in prison in Russia on drug charges on August 4th in a ruling U.S. President Joe Biden called unacceptable. Quiet diplomacy is underway, and it should bear fruit if Washington follows it and not fall into propaganda through media hype to score points before an election, says Ivan Nekiev, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, a spokesman for the Russian Foreign Ministry, referring to U.S. midterm elections in November. The Kremlin has previously said that the U.S. officials were undermining efforts to secure a prisoner swap by resorting to megaphone diplomacy over the case. Washington has offered to exchange Russian arms trafficker Viktor Bout for Griner and former Marine Paul Whelan, sources familiar with the situation have told Reuters. If you remember, towards the beginning of this, I talked to you about that they were talking about doing a prisoner swap, and then the whole trial happened, and we were all sitting here like, if there's a prisoner swap happening, why is there a trial? Like, just go ahead and get this prisoner swap going. Now, Russia truly has the upper hand. My thing is, Russia is very propaganda ridden. So I'm wondering what they're keeping on the back burner, what they're asking for now that they have this upper hand. Because if the prisoner swap doesn't happen, she's going to a prison city. And this prison city is known for its abuse. So, Yay, thanks. So those are the two big breaking updates that from stories that, I've been covering since their beginning. But there's some really weird, hinky things going on with the Secret Service. So let's take a look at them and come back and talk about them. There's two videos, but we're going to handle them individually. Here's the first one.
The U.S. Secret Service learned of a threat to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, ECA, days before the January 6th insurrection but failed to pass that information along until hours after the Capitol was breached, according to newly revealed emails. Emails obtained by the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington showed that Secret Service agents discovered a Parler account on January 4, 2021, that posted a series of violent threats against the House Speaker and Joe Biden, but the agency did not share them with law enforcement until more than 5 hours after Donald Trump supporters broke into the Capitol. Good afternoon. The U.S. Secret Service is passing notification to the U.S. Capitol Police regarding discovery of a social media threat directed towards Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the agency said in a message sent at 5:55 p.m. that day. On December 31, 2020, the account referred to the day Congress certified Biden's win as number 1776 all over again and listed a series of enemies, including Pelosi, and encouraged fellow Trump supporters to keep their MAGA gear hidden until they had checked into hotels and be wary of both police and locals. Related newly revealed emails show Secret Service was warned about January 6 threat to Pence, but failed to act. PC is very blue and a hotbed for Antifa/BLM. Stay with the large group, especially at night, said the account's owner, who appears to have operated profiles using the same name on Twitter, MeWe, BitChute, YouTube, and Facebook. The threats became more specific closer to January 6, when the account targeted the president-elect. Biden will die shortly after being elected. The account posted January 6. Patriots are going to tear his head off. Prison is his best-case scenario. We're all on a mission to save America. Lone wolf attacks are the way to go. Read another post from the following day. Stay anonymous. Stay alive. Guns up, patriots. Other emails obtained by crew show the Secret Service learned of threats against Vice President Mike Pence but failed to act. The Secret Service later deleted text messages and other messages from January 6, when Trump allegedly assaulted an agent who refused to drive him to the Capitol to join his supporters, and the House Select Committee is increasingly interested in the agency's response to threats against Pence and other elected officials.
I keep telling y'all, they have lost it. They're sitting here saying that Biden was going to die shortly after the election, telling them, just like historically they've always done, how to blend in with people who actually need change within this country to stay alive. But that's not the only thing the Secret Service is up to. Let's take a look.
The Trump-appointed Department of Homeland Security Inspector General is refusing to cooperate regarding the Secret Service text messages. He currently is blocking employees from testifying and also threatening alternative measures. Fire him, Biden. Fucking fire him. He supports a Russian asset that's under investigation for espionage. His supporters call him Trump.
And if you think that's not the worst of it, Trump has bigger fish to fry. He doesn't understand attorney-client privilege.
So recently, Trump went on his personal platform to complain about the fact that the FBI allegedly sees property covered by attorney-client privilege. In fact, he comically used his platform's posting lingo to say that by copy of this truth, he requested the return of the documents. Not so fast, Mr. Trump. You see, client-attorney privilege represents the protection afforded to documents and things containing information and communication between a person and his or her lawyer in anticipation of a litigation under what's known as the work product doctrine. But this doctrine as client-attorney privilege, like any other right, isn't unlimited. It stops working when the so-called crime fraud exception intervenes. When a client seeks legal counsel that will assist the client in the commission of a crime, the attorney-client privilege stops working. There are two instances related to the documents seized in Mar-a-Lago where that comes to mind. A letter to the Justice Department signed by one of Trump's lawyers stating that no more classified documents existed. I did a video on that you can find on my profile, and possible movement of boxes out of the storage room at the Trump resort that was caught on surveillance camera footage that was subpoenaed by the FBI after the Justice Department officials were in Mar-a-Lago. The possibility that one or both of these events could constitute criminal activity would deprive the documents of the client-attorney privilege status. Incidentally, Trump is no stranger to this doctrine since he unsuccessfully claimed client-attorney privilege in court proceedings related to the attempted overturn of the legitimate results of the 2020 elections. It looks like Mr. Trump enjoys claiming executive privilege, client-attorney privilege, and of course, declassification of documents. Also, maybe requesting the return of property seized by federal law enforcement through a post on Truth Social might not be the smartest move. What do you think?
What Trump did, for anybody who's had a Facebook page for a while, this is what it reminded me of. You know how every couple of months, at least once a year, it pops up. Somebody will have a post on their page. If you don't want Facebook to use this, copy and paste this. I do not consent to blah, 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 blah. Did you read the terms and conditions before you click that you agreed to them on the social media platform? You putting that out there means nothing. It's just as much as when it tickles me that somebody goes, I contacted a lawyer and I'm making this video to tell you to cease and desist right now. It's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. But Trump's legal woes once again. We all know Trump kind of wants the affidavit for the warrant on the raid on Mar-a-Lago unsealed. And the reason why he wants to is he wants to know who's snitching on him. He wants to know the specific targets of the investigation. He wants to know what direction they're going into. Unsealing this affidavit entirely could allow Trump to avoid prosecution. It would definitively put people in danger because we see what's going on. We just watched a video not too long ago regarding what they were planning to do and what the Secret Service knew that they were planning to do regarding January 6th. In their mind, this raid on Mar-a-Lago, January 6th was here. They leaped off of that. They're like, this is the springboard. But as I told you all the other day, the judge was taking a look at it and was originally supposed to rule today. Yeah, he wants to know if the boy or Melania snitched on him. But coming from the Associated Press, judge appears willing to unveil some of Mar-a-Lago affidavit. A federal judge on Thursday ordered the Justice Department to put forward proposed redactions as he committed to making public at least part of the affidavit supporting the search warrant for former President Donald Trump's estate in Florida. It is not his estate. It is listed as a national historic landmark and a golf resort. It is not his personal residence. Can we be honest in media for once? Can we use proper words? Words have meaning. But I digress. U.S. Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhardt said that under the law, it's the government's burden to show why a redacted version should not be released, and prosecutors' arguments Thursday failed to persuade him. He gave them a week to submit a copy of the affidavit proposing the information it wants to keep secret after the FBI seized classified and top secret information during a search at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate last week. See, that's the thing. Why is the judge saying that the FBI needs to prove that, hey, we don't need to unseal this when we can't even see the documents that were removed? The FBI agents that went to collect the documents don't even have the level of clearance to look through and properly inventory this stuff. Like, that's enough to say, hey, don't unseal this. And Trump sycophants have already put FBI agents' names, addresses, their children, their spouses' information online. FBI locations have armed protesters outside of them. Someone already tried to shoot their way through an FBI location. But I guess the hearing was convened after several news organizations, including the Associated Press, sought to unseal additional records tied to last week's search, including the affidavit. Look, media, I am all here for full disclosure. I love to have full disclosure with my viewers, with my friends, everything else. But sometimes you need to sit back, shut up, and be patient. See, sometimes you rush to get the scoop so you can sell a few more papers, so you can get a few more clicks, likes, views, high fives. Yeah, they did it. Maybe get the cover of something. But in the long term, you're hindering prosecution and hindering justice being served. And you have to look at the long game and have some patience. That's why I tell people all the time on different social media platforms of mine, when they're like, hey, Taz, why didn't you talk about this? Why didn't you talk about that? First of all, this may not be the platform for me to fully give all of the information, number one. Number two, sometimes it's best to sit back and look and watch for a little bit and do a little digging and do a little research instead of just trying to scoop everybody. Because sometimes you scoop justice away from people. And see, if you rush to uncover everything, once again, Trump is going to evade prosecution, conviction, consequences. And we've seen he's just going to get worse. And his fan base is going to get more emboldened. But y'all don't hear me though. But coming from yahoonews.com, yahoonews.com by way of Daily Beast, Putin World declares our agent Trump is irreversibly screwed. Concerns were swirling within the Kremlin and splashing onto the screens of Russia's tightly controlled state media. Moscow's grueling invasion of Ukraine and Washington's potential designation of Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism are at the top of the list, but the upcoming U.S. elections are likewise causing some heart palpitations. Having recovered from their initial shock over the FBI's search of Donald Trump's Florida estate, Jesus, again with the estate, Russian experts and pundits started to dismiss it as much ado about nothing, albeit a convenient tale they could not use to smear American democracy. Now they're singing a different tune. In the most recent broadcast of the state TV show Sunday Evening with Vladimir Sokolov, host Vladimir remarked, "I'm very worried for our agent Trump. They found everything at Mar-a-Lago. They got packages of documents. In all seriousness, they say he should be executed as a person that was ready to hand off nuclear secrets to Russia." Appearing on the show, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova likewise raged against the alleged persecution of Moscow's favorite former U.S. president. In a bizarre tirade, she attempted to tie the search of Mar-a-Lago with Trump's earlier statement that there are only two genders, male and female. Oh, always gotta throw in the transphobia. In the West, you are not allowed to call a man a man. You can't call a woman a woman. You're not allowed to call a child male or female until it reaches the age of 2 or 3 years old, she fumed. In a run-up to the upcoming electoral battles, one of the contenders for the political role, the most important political role in the United States, Donald Trump steps up and says, "We've gone too far. There are only two genders, male and female." You gotta be kidding me. This cannot be. You know what? There's more than a glitch in the matrix. It's gotta be. And remember, as we discussed last night, Trump decided to do a virtual appearance for a cult in China. So maybe to avoid prosecution, he'll either go to China or North Korea, because we know how he loves it there, or Russia. But I mean, he's no longer any good to them. He's not president. He no longer has the classified files that everybody wanted, and nobody actually likes his personality. But coming from AOL.com by way of Yahoo Finance, Trump Organization executive Alan Weisselberg pleads guilty to tax fraud. I know we talked about the possibility of him doing it, and he said that he would, but today he officially did. Trump Organization executive Alan Weisselberg pleaded guilty on Thursday to 15 criminal tax fraud charges, alleging that he and the Trump organization participated in a scheme to evade federal, state, and local taxes. Weisselberg, 75, who started working for the Trump family nearly 50 years ago and served as its longtime chief financial officer, admitted to omitting $1.7 million in personal income tax from his tax filings between 2005 and 2021 and agreed to full repayment of taxes due plus interest totaling $1,994,321. "Yes, Your Honor," Weisselberg said in a response to the judge's separate questions asking whether he agreed to plead guilty to each of the 15 criminal charges during a hearing Thursday morning in New York State's Supreme Court. (2005 to 2021) I know people who messed up on their taxes unintentionally, clearly accidental, because the United States government and the IRS intentionally set you up for failure. They want you to guess how much you owe the country, as if the country doesn't know how much we all owe them. But they've messed up 2 years in a row, and they've been audited. Willie Nelson couldn't go that far before they infamously and so publicly auctioned off his stuff to repay his taxes. They didn't let Wesley Snipes go that far before they incarcerated him for that. So you waited until this man was already knocking on the crypt keeper's door. I guess. Well, let's lighten it up a little bit. Marjorie Taylor Greene spent some time getting owned online. Let's take a look.
I swear, my page is not just to bash Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she makes it so goddamn easy sometimes. Marge tweeted this last night. A clear message is being sent about what the Republican Party needs to be. It's not anything like liar Liz Cheney, who is nothing like Abraham Lincoln. There were some good replies, but this one amused me quite a bit. RJ said, "You know Abraham Lincoln and all Republicans at the time were Northern liberals, right?" To which Ginny on the golf course replied, "No, they weren't. They were good old Republicans. You people just pretend to care about POC communities when it's time to elect presidents. How is the Green New Deal going to help them? Please name one thing in that policy that helps POC." To which Lance replied, "A livable planet, green spaces in communities that currently have none, new revenue from taxing the wealthy to fund programs that improve disenfranchised communities, and tell me you know nothing about American history without telling me you know nothing about American history." And Ginny, of course, said, "Oh yeah? When exactly will that occur, and how much is budgeted for each city?" Now I'm sure Ginny really does care about those communities. But to just not simply understand the history of the Republican and Democratic Party and not know that Republicans once were the liberal party is fucking amazing. I love how they just completely ignore these facts every time. But they sure don't mind saying the Democrats were the KKK. Also ignoring the fact that the KKK now supports the Republican Party, but we don't want to get into that.
Now, one caveat, and if you followed me for a while, you know the caveat that I'm going to bring up. No current party within the United States can claim Abraham Lincoln. He created his own party to run under when he was elected president, and once he died, that party was disbanded. It was a Democratic Republican Party. He was neither Democrat or Republican as we know it today. He didn't care about black people. He wanted black people excommunicated to Liberia, a United States subsidy, a colony within the continent of Africa, or freed or removed subjugants of chattel slavery. He didn't end slavery out of the goodness of his heart. He was not an abolitionist. But I digress. But it's always good to see Marjorie Taylor Greene continuously get owned by her own stupidity online. But that's what that Daughters of the Confederacy education will do for you. They romanticize everything and whitewash everything and deliver and package up a white saviorism for the masses that nobody could make it out of anything. No one could come up with anything. No one could succeed. Everyone's lives were so horrible if it wasn't for white people. Well, if that's the case, why did you need slaves? How come you couldn't survive the summer or the winter? How come you were bringing disease and destruction everywhere? But, there's something that's been floating around for years that we don't really have an answer to. Do you think we'll ever get an answer to what exactly Obamagate is? Let's take a look.
They never investigated Barack Obama for espionage, despite Obamagate. Now, does anybody know what Obamagate is? Because this is the thing that Trump and others kept talking about. Obamagate, Obamagate, no one's doing anything about Obamagate. And when a reporter asked Trump, "Sir," with tears in his eyes, welling up with tears, they said, "Sir, what is Obamagate?" Trump looked at the guy, I remember it like it was yesterday in the press briefing room, and said, "You know what it is. You're a reporter. You know what it is."
What is the crime exactly that you're accusing him of?
You know what the crime is. The crime is very obvious to everybody. All you have to do is read the newspapers, except yours.
We still don't know what it is, but because Trump is now under criminal investigation for violating the Espionage Act, all of a sudden they're talking about Obamagate again. Obama!
Now, I have my theories on what Obamagate is. I think it may have to do something with the tan suit incident. Nope, nope. Because Garfield Cruz wore a tan suit. Mitch McConnell wore a tan suit. And Mitch McConnell was in my neck of the woods today. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Maybe it was the whole Dijon mustard thing. Nope, nope, nope. Can't be that. Because Trump decided during the height of COVID to host a championship team and feed them lukewarm fast food and smile over it like he did that, as if it was a Michelin 5-star restaurant that came in and catered the event. Maybe it was when Michelle Obama had her shoulders out. No, because there's a long line of first ladies who did that. Maybe Obamagate was the lack of mistresses in the White House, or the lack of a nanny. Or maybe it's the lack of Sasha and Malia sneaking out the house to engage in underage drinking in front of their Secret Service detail. Because we know that's what the Bush twins did. No? Was it the lack of a first lady having such an alcohol problem that she was drinking rubbing alcohol and mouthwash because of the minute alcohol? No, that was Betty Ford. What did... I don't know. Oh, he's definitively a lying criminal. And there's so much more coming down the pipeline at him, because one of the biggest proponents for Donald Trump that spread his disinformation quicker than a Waffle House cook spreading butter on the grill was Alex Jones. Buckle up, buttercups, because this definitely wasn't on my bingo card.
Well, it looks like Alex Jones has jumped ship and no longer wants to be on that Trump train. He now supports DeSantis, and he said that he can see on HD video the sincerity in DeSantis' eyes.
A few years ago, even though I disagreed with his warp speed, because I thought that we had to keep him in office because of the nightmare scenario if Hillary or Biden got in, back before they were officially running. But that said, I am supporting DeSantis. DeSantis is just gone from being awesome to being unbelievably good. And I don't just watch a man's actions, as Christ said, judge a tree by its fruits. I can also look in his eyes on HD video, and I see the real sincerity. This is what Trump should be like. And I've been hammering this point, and he's doing it now. And we have someone that is better than Trump. Way better than Trump.
So let's get this straight. Alex Jones, who sent naked pictures of his wife to Roger Stone, is quoting Jesus Christ. I can't believe I'm hearing this. Trump is going to lose his effing mind. Hard to decide which is funnier, that he's left Trump or he thinks DeSantis is sincere. Vote blue, no matter who. Fun-loving, charismatic Ron DeSantis is waiting in the wings to be our next national nightmare. Vote blue, no matter who. That's fine. Let them continue to fight amongst each other and split the two parties.
Now, if you remember when I was covering Alex Jones and that of a trial, I told you all to pay attention, and also pay attention to the legislation and the acts that the GOP is now trying to shut down. They want to quickly amend. They want to enact them. There's a lot of them that are on this crashing train into the fiery depths of hell with Trump. The only difference between Trump and DeSantis is Trump is facing a lot of litigation. Trump had the FBI raid his home. DeSantis did such a whiplash-inducing flip during the whole Mar-a-Lago raid. It made my neck hurt, and I didn't even flip or turn. That is the single difference between Trump and DeSantis. They both pander to the lowest common denominator. They will destroy this country in order to line their pockets. Nothing that they're going to say is going to be fact-based, reasonable, or for the people. They are for the top 1%, period. They are homophobic, transphobic, sexist, racist, you name it. It's just less likely DeSantis will either be arrested while in office or die while in office. Because when Trump was still in office, he was the only United States president in the history of the United States as a country that had active warrants from other countries on him. Did y'all forget about that? Because I didn't. Oh, you missed our show where I discussed Alex Jones sending Roger Stone naked pictures of his own wife. And the pardon deal in detail is a part of the materials that were seized by the FBI from Mar-a-Lago. But Trump's woes have not gotten any better. Because people are done with him acting like he is the main character from the movie Casino. Let's go.
Just came out and called Donald Trump a liar, saying that his claim that he had a standing order to declassify documents is just not true. And of course it's not true. Anybody that works in the highest levels of government or the law will tell you that his excuse is BS. It makes absolutely no sense, and Trump and his team are trying to come up with literally any excuse to explain away his crimes. 18 former...
And just to back that up, coming from CNN.com, CNN exclusive. Ludicrous, ridiculous, a complete fiction. Former Trump officials say his claim of standing order to declassify is nonsense. In the days since the FBI seized classified and top secret documents from Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, the former president and his allies have claimed that Trump had a standing order to declassify documents he took from the Oval Office to the White House residence. Y'all remember when I told y'all pay attention to the wording? Now I say it. Trump kept calling Mar-a-Lago the Winter White House. These documents were not taken from the White House residence. Let me repeat this sentence. Well, part of this sentence. Had a standing order to declassify documents he took from the Oval Office to the White House residence. And I also told y'all that for the amount of documents he had, he didn't walk out the day of the inauguration, which is moving day technically for the former president, current president. This stuff had already been moving and shaking. And remember, there was a former aide to former Vice President Mike Pence that stated that there were multiple occasions that she found classified documents in the ladies' room in the West Wing. But 18 former top Trump administrative officials tell CNN they'd never heard any such order issued during their time working for Trump, and that they believe the claim made to be patently false. Several officials laughed at the notion. One senior administration official called it bullshit. Two former Trump chiefs of staff went on the record to knock down the claim. Nothing approaching an order that foolish was ever given, said John Kelly, who served as Trump's chief of staff for 17 months from 2017 to 2019. And I can't imagine anyone that worked at the White House after me that would have simply shrugged their shoulders and allowed that order to go forward without dying in the ditch to try to stop it. Mike Mulvaney, who succeeded Kelly as acting White House chief of staff, who dismissed the idea and told CNN he was not aware of a general standing order during his tenure. In addition, CNN spoke with former national security and intelligence officials, as well as White House lawyers and Justice Department officials. Taken together, their tenure covers all 4 years of the Trump administration, and many served in positions where they would either be included in the declassification process or, at the very least, be aware of such orders. Official after official scoffed at the claim Trump had a standing order to declassify documents that left the Oval Office and were taken to the residence. Total nonsense, one senior White House official said. If that's true, where is the order? Where with his signature on it? If that were the case, there would have been tremendous pushback from the intel community and DOD, which would almost certainly have become known to intel and armed services committees on the Hill. Many of the officials spoke to CNN on the condition of anonymity in order to candidly discuss internal Trump administration dynamics, as well as to avoid any potential blowback from the former president. He did. And then he took Trump as a starting point and said, here, hold my beer. Just like the opponent for Liz Cheney in the Wyoming primary did the same, because they used to be friends, as I showed you all last night. And what did she do? She got straight off her election and dove straight into the middle, the center of the Trump playbook. Not sure what I'm talking about? Take a look.
Congratulated you and wished you well. How did the call go?
Well, there wasn't a phone call. While I was going in and getting ready to do my acceptance speech last night and had just arrived at the watch party, she called and left a very brief 2-second message on my cell phone. That's the extent of it. I haven't had any other contact with Liz Cheney. She only made the one effort, and all she said was, hello, Harriet, and then that was the end of it. So she didn't call and discuss with me any kind of concession or anything else. It was just a one phone call. I was obviously extremely busy with family and friends.
She just said, hello, Harriet, and then hung up?
That was the end of the call, yes. That was the only time. It was about 8:15 last night, and I was just getting ready to go on stage with my acceptance speech, and I didn't have an opportunity to visit with her.
Okay.
AP's calling it, so we should go. Message. Tell us.
Hi, Harriet. Liz Cheney calling. It's about 8:13 on Tuesday the 16th. I'm calling to concede the election and to congratulate you on the win. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Now let's go back in history. Nobody criticized Trump because he never officially conceded, nor did he call Joe Biden during the last presidential cycle. But that was okay. So if Cheney decided not to, that would have been okay. Now, for those of you all that want to give Harriet Hageman the benefit of the doubt, let's just say she's a boomer. She didn't understand technology. You heard the beginning of the actual recording. Hageman was right about how that voicemail started. She could have easily, accidentally, on purpose, deleted it and did a dirty delete and figured, oh, nobody will have receipts, because the GOP never thinks anybody has receipts on them. Ever. And the GOP plays what I call social media games, where it's like, I'll take this receipt and put it up and move my head all around it, and I'll tell you what it says. And you just believe me because I got this behind me. So you need to believe this is what this says. But when you pause or take a screenshot and zoom in, it is the clear polar opposite of what's being said. Classic bait and switch. Classic smoke and mirrors. Classic sleight of hand. Now, I've said before, but I'm going to say here. This particular race in Wyoming between Hageman and Cheney is a little skeptic to me. It's a little sus. Okay, so Hageman was so fervently against Trump in the beginning. I'm like, is she one of those that's just going to slip and slide in and actually rock the house? Because we know Cheney is now confusing the brains of white female Democrats, independents, Green Party, Pink Party, registered voters. Because you have people going, oh, she's my hero. For what? For what? Because a couple times on TV she stood up against Trump. Her life was in danger that day. Have you learned nothing about the classic conservative white woman within the United States with the abundance of history that you have to learn from? They don't give a damn till something affects them. Then, like a sprint, they will fight. But they can only do that sprint. Once they become out of breath, it's on to the next. Because what happened to all that vigor regarding Roe v. Wade? And we're not going to go like Handmaid's Tale anymore. We're going to appropriate MMIW. We're going to use indigenous face paint. We're going to use the battle anthems of black people. Raise a fist. We're going to fight. Where are they? Where are they right now? What happened to we're the descendants of the witches you couldn't burn? Where are they? They sprint when it affects them. Then they, that was good. That was high five, high five. Let's go home. Let's have a Chardonnay, Sherry. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm lying. Now I told y'all, Mitch the bitch McConnell was in my neck of the woods. Like literally, I was wondering why it was so hot today. And then I realized the devil was in our midst. Coming from Cincinnati.com, McConnell calls violence against law enforcement unacceptable after FBI office attack. Senator Mitch the bitch, it doesn't really say that. My apologies. Senator Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, offered a rebuke of threats and acts of violence toward law enforcement 1 week after an armed man wearing body armor tried to gain entry to Cincinnati's FBI headquarters and was subsequently killed by police. I think attacks on law enforcement agencies is completely unacceptable, McConnell told reporters during a visit to Greater Cincinnati on Thursday. He was in my city, in Kentucky. But if you're anywhere close to Cincinnati, they claim it as Cincinnati. You could be 45 minutes out. Catch what I'm putting down. Acts of violence are not protected by the First Amendment, and people who engage in acts of violence need to pay the price for it. Well, you didn't make Trump pay for the price for inciting the January 6th self-coup, but come on, Mitch the bitch. Are you mad because he took away your boyfriend, Putin, Tsar Putin? Is that what it is? McConnell's remarks on the attempted breach of the FBI field office in Sycamore Township followed his appearance at a Northern Kentucky, Chamber of Commerce event at the Hilton Hotel in Florence, Kentucky. It's a good thing I didn't know where he was until after he left. Because, baby, that protest would have been Basquiat. The Senate Minority Leader spoke to a crowded ballroom about the war in Ukraine, inflation, the midterm election, and the price of prescription drugs, among other issues. Hopefully, all people in public life will push back against that, McConnell said when asked about growing threats and anti-law enforcement rhetoric following the FBI search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago property in Florida. Now, they're supposed to be talking about the price of prescription drugs and other issues, and he kept bringing that up because he's going to gaslight these people. Now, I have been peeking in and out of my Nextdoor app. Y'all know if I catch some shenanigans, we're going to talk about it tomorrow. I'm expose all the little racists around me. I don't care. And regarding prescription costs and everything else, if you have not already gotten vaccinated or your booster for COVID-19, please, before the weekend is out, go get it. And here's why.
The day we all warned you has come. Your COVID vaccine will no longer be covered by the government, and you will be required to pay for it by yourself or through insurance, if you have insurance.
So while you can still get it free, please go get it. Please urge your family, your friends, your coworkers, whoever, to go and get it. And if they need a breakdown, think about this vaccine came out of nowhere. No, please understand what research science is. Now, look, we know that the bestie bimbos, the bestie boostastics of Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene for some reason disbanded, but they're still both guzzling the glizzy of Donald Trump equally. Marjorie Taylor Greene just seems to be getting more FaceTime with Trump lately, and I think that they broke up because Lauren was in the company of Trump more often, but Lauren is more Trump's type, and Lauren might be vying to be the 67th Mrs. Donald J. Trump. I don't know. But some interesting things have come up regarding her and January 6th. This is a long one. Get a beverage, get a snack, but pay close attention. Take some notes.
So I came across this thread from January 10th, 2021 regarding Lauren Boebert and her involvement with January 6th. Let's have a little refresher, shall we? Boebert has always been vocal about her affiliations. The 3% Patriots of Colorado joined her in Pueblo to protect her like some militia security detail. It said, and I quote, "I'm asking y'all to wave your flags and show your love for our country." She eventually got an audience with President Trump. After she met with Trump, she posted about how she was looking forward to January 6th. On January 1st, she started some countdown, rallying support, sending love and declaring blessings to all on this first day of 2021. The first 6 days of this year will include a new Congress, the most decisive Senate special election in years, and possibly the most important day in our nation's history, January 6th, 2021. Happy New Year! On January 2nd, she said great words with President Trump tonight. Get ready, y'all! On January 5th, she tweeted that the next 48 hours are going to be among the most important in American history. What I especially loved about this one was her mugshot below. And the comment says, "Oh, do you have a meeting with your parole officer?" On January 6th, she posted, "Today is 1776. Many did not know she was referring to the QAnon Revolution 1776, Operation Occupy the Capitol, taking back our country from corrupt politicians. All 50 states, 12 p.m. We the people are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who prevent the Constitution. Abraham Lincoln." The irony of the fact that they're quoting Abraham Lincoln is hilarious. On the 6th, she was in the House chambers and communicated with patriots as the day progressed. Badass patriot, keep the patriots up to date. All live streams have been cut off. As the coup began, Boebert posted that she was located in the chambers, but the Pelosi had been removed. Right here, she tweets, "The speaker has been removed from the chambers." I wonder, was she talking to someone directly, or was it just like a common announcement so that people would know to go look for her elsewhere? Trump had eyes and ears in the Senate, so it seems likely that Boebert was doing that from the House chambers. Then this bitch had the audacity to thank the Capitol Hill police for their tireless service. Bitch, it's partially your fault. Enough of the speculation that this girl might be a little wacky. She is a full-fledged traitor and is a valuable asset to Trump's violent and lawless agenda.
You know, this is why racism and all the other isms flourish in stupidity and ignorance. To quote Abraham Lincoln, who gave that quote during a time of the Civil War, where the Confederacy was attempting to secede from the Union, and these people are acting. They took cosplay to a whole nother level as the Confederacy, but wanted to quote the Union. That would be like me using Candace Owens as the poster child for my podcast. So now we know Marjorie Taylor Greene was actively texting, asking people to tell Trump to call off the mob because she realized, oh shit, my life is also in danger. No shit. Y'all had meetings to incite a self coup for Trump. And you were sitting there. Y'all are no different than the pastor, and I'm using this word very loosely, the pastor in, what was it, Brooklyn, New York, who set up his church allegedly to be robbed. And he was sitting in the midst, like, could y'all at least be like Kim K was in Paris when she got robbed for all that jewelry? She wasn't in the room. But our second to last clip for tonight comes from I'll just say this, comes from the Visine guy. If you're old enough, you know, you know. And some of y'all might be shocked, but let's not forget that he's one of the top speechwriters for Nixon once upon a time. So I wasn't shocked by this. Maybe you will be. Maybe this will ruin your fucking childhood. Maybe it'll make you walk past Visine in your pharmacy aisles. I don't know. But in true transparency, this came to light. So I'm shining it on you.
To you right now on the 3 days after Christmas in the lobby of the Beverly Hills Hotel, one of the most beautiful hotels in the world as far as I'm aware. And I want to talk about crime. When I moved here in 1976, this was a very safe city, and Beverly Hills was one of the safest places in that city. In fact, I think for a large city, it was probably the safest city in the United States of America. And that's changed dramatically, and here's what's going on. For some reason, which would take a lot of explaining, but it could be explained, the government decides to basically stop punishing black people who commit crimes. And black people can commit crimes and not be prosecuted for it. Yes, they're embarrassed, at least to a small extent, and yes, their parents are mad at them, but they do not get away with anything less than murder. And this is a shocking thing. This is a very bad thing. So we have gone from a city where people are happy, they go around with their doors unlocked, to fear. And we have become a city of fear, and that is an extremely bad place to be.
So 3 days after Christmas, you as a Jewish man are sitting in a beautiful resort, one of the most beautiful, according to you, in the world. And your mind goes, crime has increased where in the city that I live in. Let's not look at the total demographics. Let's just pinpoint and blame black people. And then say black people just get away with it. Since when? Since when? There are marijuana dispensaries that are completely legal right now, and they have yet to reduce the sentence of nickel and dime weed men across the nation that are doing more years for selling weed than white men for brutal rapes and murders. But you used to be able to leave your doors unlocked, but you can't now. You know, there were some wonderful black and brown neighborhoods that had reduced crime or virtually no crime. And then they were disseminated due to crime. Guess where that crime came from? Not the black and brown indigenous people of color that were living there. It's not our children that will celebrate the win of their favorite team by destroying a city. It's not our children that will get butthurt over their favorite team losing and destroy city blocks. It's not our children that have rituals and traditions that mean that when they go off to college, there's 2 city blocks that they just go and destroy one night, leaving these families decimated, riddled with debt, trying to replace things that they need to sustain their livelihood and take care of their families. It is not our children, our relatives, that instead of just getting a divorce, they eliminate the entire family and then get a slap on the wrist and are back out in a couple years. See, the only way for white people to be executed or wilt away in jail or prison, they have to kill one of your favorites. They have to do something so egregious to so many people that no manner of excuse will quell the fervor. Whew. But now, I always close out with a bang. So let's go ahead. Let's roll this footage and let's disseminate the next set of bullshit. And this is racism from a privileged perspective. A privileged racist perspective. You'll see as I break this down. Here we go.
Is such an explosive word. If you haven't scrolled away already, you're probably preparing to either flame or like this video. Let me tell you a story and you decide whether it's racism. When I was a kid after school, I often watched reruns on KTVU Channel 2 Oakland, which back in the 80s had an especially large black community. During commercial breaks, they showed stories coming up for the 6 o'clock news, especially sensational stories like a crime, often showing a black suspect and black victims and interviewing black witnesses, and the news anchor was also black. But where I was growing up in Sunnyvale, it was mostly white, and my classes had few black kids. So a lot of my exposure to black people, or at least black adults, came from those news clips. And with all the crime stories, my child brain formed an association between black people and crime.
So your child brain, and we're going to ignore everything else that goes into the development of biases and racism, like what your parents, your friends, your teachers, your other relatives, your neighbors put into your brain and said to you, which tells me was a whole lot of racism, because you took the time to point out that the anchor was also black and that not every story featured a black face regarding something negative, but you focused on that. And you focused on the negative and ignored the black man who was an anchor that was giving a light of positivity and representation at the time on TV. And this also goes to show redlining and blockbustering and how close you were to this disenfranchised community that you were able to get their networks. And you chose and sought out that. So if everything is geared towards black people, that means you also decided we were simply for your entertainment as well. But let's keep going.
Does that make me a racist? As a kid,
yes,
I didn't understand the complex relations of race to discrimination, to less opportunity, to poverty, to desperation, to crime. Fortunately,
the list that you just put up and how you decided to list it, you're racist. You know that you're racist. There's something that you're afraid to lose. It's something that somebody pointed out to you in your personal life that made you uncomfortable. Therefore, you decided to make this video to get in front of it. I'll give you about 30 days before we find out what it is.
Fortunately, I didn't assume race caused crime, but let's say I did. Our brains do.
30 seconds ago, you already said that as a child, your childlike brain associated race with certain things. The gaslighting already, but a white man gonna do what a white man gonna do. Come on, colonizer.
You often see cause effect where it's not. So would you blame a kid for assuming some races are more likely to commit crimes?
Yes, when a child is presented with multiple facets, especially through commercialization and the news, where a black man is the anchor during a time where there were very few black faces or non-white faces on television, and you automatically go to, hey, black is bad. Yeah, you're racist, because it wasn't just the news that was influencing you. But you're not going to tell your viewers that. You're not going to tell your followers that. But let's carry on.
Would you call that kid a racist? Implicitly racist? Ignorant? Stupid? Hateful? Maybe it would be more constructive to say implicit bias. These associations form on a subconscious level, and they're very hard to erase. What's more likely is the conscious part of our brains can try to manage and override our subconscious assumptions.
No, they're not. Because when you choose to open up yourself and actually see the world for what it is and educate yourself, it is not hard to let go of implicit biases. It really isn't. And I'm tired of this excuse being given to people as if it is a blanket catch you all, save you all. We can just wait until you die while you just sit and allow things to slip out, and you have an excuse to go, oh, well, it's hard for me to get over, implicit bias. And as always, with all of you faux allies and you faux educators, it's you always leave out incredible nuggets what your parents influenced upon you. As I said before, with your neighbors, other family members, your teachers. You did not bring them up. You went into slight detail regarding Black people that you did not know and how they cultivated your train of thought at that time, and you took yourself and infantilized yourself as a child, saying, would you say this about a child? But you're a full-grown adult still perpetuating what you claimed you shook off after childhood. And you stated that the school that you went to was predominantly white, but not 100% white. So did you interact with the non-white children? Did you interact with them to get an understanding of their experience there? And before you made this video, did you reach out to them? Because I'm thinking no. I'm thinking you didn't. But let's continue to go down this fucking rabbit hole with you.
Let me give another example, but with sexism. When I was growing up in the 70s,
so you lack the nuance to discuss intersectionality within racism. So you're going to compare apples to oranges. Okay, let's keep going.
And 80s, I didn't see many women scientists, engineers, or CEOs, so my child brain associated those as men's jobs. Now, today when I see a woman in those jobs, there's still a small part of my brain that's a little surprised, but then the logical, conscious part of my brain kicks in a second later.
Given that you talked about your age, who was your science teacher? What did your mother do for a living? Your aunts, your cousins, do you have a sister? What were their aspirations? Were you just ignoring everybody else? Were you just raised in a bubble and they just let you out to go to school and watch TV and you had zero interaction with anyone else? You didn't have a history teacher, right? So it sounds like you grew up with a sexist, misogynist, and a collection of racists. And now you're just trying to justify where you think you got out of. Because you decided to pat yourself on the back. You decided to denounce yourself. You decided to knight yourself as an ally. Let's keep going.
So is that sexism, implicit sexism, misogyny, or how about implicit bias? The reality is that most people have at least a little bias, and it's not necessarily coming from a place of hate. For some people, yeah, there is explicit bigotry, but for most, it's just the way our brains naturally form associations without understanding.
You know what? I'm just going to stop you right there, Mr. Privilege. No. No. Because if that were the case, the BIPOC community as a whole would have eliminated white people eons ago. Because we grow up with no representation. All we are presented with is the worst of you, the evil in you from every angle. Because we don't have any representation, you are both the hero and the villain in everything. You are what goes bump in the night. But when there is a desire to not be around white people, it has nothing to do with what we saw on TV. It has to do with actual interactions that we had with way too many white people. And you have the privilege to eliminate so many pieces of the puzzle to excuse things that you have said or done over the years, thoughts that you still have in your head that you want forgiveness for. You want the ability to be by numerically grown ass man, but still be treated with kid gloves. This is why we say we BIPOC are never allowed to grow up, and we're never allowed to have a childhood, and y'all were never allowed to grow up. It is extremely disgusting, and he is exactly excusing racism to the fullest. But thank you all for toughing it out with me today. Sorry, the past couple of episodes have gone just a slight bit over. But as always, each one teach one, each one preach one. And since the week has been on this trend, I'm going to close it out with a video. Here we go.
I never knew what a cult film was till we became one, because there wasn't one.
Just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania.
The reason people think it's the greatest cult movie of all time is because it's their movie. They own it. It's as if they make it every night they go to the theater.
It was the first film that the audience started talking back to the screen. How very dare they?
Rocky Horror paid our rent all the time. We would have like 30 people in for a 9:30 screening, 415 people in for the midnight screening. The beginning crowd was a little older and it was a little gayer, and people started just to find the film, and then it exploded like no other cult film has exploded audience-wise. At one point, maybe there was 170 screens showing the film around the country at midnight, to many times to sold-out houses.
That film has helped so many people through difficult times, coming to terms with their sexuality. That's been a really moving aspect of the whole thing. And of course, that contributes enormously to the fact that it is the cult that it is.
This movie gave you permission to be who you are. Don't dream it, be it.
Don't dream it, be it.